This is the walk we did. It was 4 days in the Fiordland, South Island, New Zealand. We had to fly to Queenstown and then drive for a couple of hours through the fjords and old mountains of Fiordland.
So this is Te Anau. Te Anau is a town that we started off. We stayed the night there and just got acclimatized to the beautiful mountains in preparation for the next day.
Really quiet. It's usually buzzing with activity with tourists, but with COVID, it's really quiet at the moment, so it's really peaceful.
And this was an amazing breakfast that we had just before taking off. And here we are on the boat, crossing to the beginning of the journey.
It's about an hour on the ferry through Lake Te Anau to get to the start point. So they drop you off on this little jetty and then you walk off. The first day was about an hour and a half walking. So not too difficult. It was just walking through this valley, along this river. This was the hut that we arrived to after about an hour and a half walking. It was cool. It was surrounded in this valley by mountains on all sides. There's waterfalls you could hear off in the distance. There's a river not too far from you.
This was taken from the helipad. There's a helipad not far from the hut. And this is the view that you could see all the way around the helipad. We were asked to meet there by the ranger who was doing a nature walk, and that was a really good educational time with him. He was quite a character.
We were always the last to leave the huts in the morning, so I think we set off around 10 a.m. where other people would leave at around 6 a.m. It's crazy. But yeah, we were the last ones to leave. We set off, I think it's about 8 hours walking or 7 hours walking, something crazy. 15 kilometers maybe. This whole walk was through a valley again, following along this river and then starting to climb the mountain. Most of the walk was through forests. Occasionally it would open up and you'd get to see the mountains around you, but mostly these old forests.
Those streams of waterfalls were just everywhere, all climbing down the mountains. And apparently, when it was quite dry for us, usually it rains the majority of the year, and when it does rain, those waterfalls become more vigorous. So at the moment, you only see a trickle of them, but they were everywhere still. This little waterfall here, there was a lake, and we had a swim in it because it wasn't freezing cold like the rest of them. And it was
still cold. It was freezing. It was still freezing for me.
It was good though. It was good for the achy body.
The peak of the mountain was about 1,150 meters, and we climbed halfway up this day, so it was about 500 meters climbing up a mountain, and we made it to the hut after probably the longest day. I think we were tired. We were really tired.
There's the hut, Mintaro Hut, and it was, I tell you, it was a beautiful new, it even had these sculptures, Maori sculptures that were carved, and it was just a really modern hut, so it had all the modern cons. This was reaching the summit, which is called McKinnon's Pass, and there's Dylan at the top. We were in the clouds, but we saw these faint pictures of images of the mountains, didn't we?
Yeah, on a clear day, you're supposed to see for miles all the valleys and the mountains and the waterfalls, but we were completely clouded in, so we got the brief view of mountains, but then we started climbing down until we could see a bit more like we can right here. Yeah, here we are at the top. We were lucky to get this little break where you could see the mountain there, but otherwise it was fully fogged in.
And there was still snow at the tops.
Yeah, it was baking hot climbing up that mountain. When you're in the forest, I was sweating, and then as soon as you reach the top, you're completely exposed, and it was freezing cold. You're in rain clouds, basically. You're in snow clouds.
I think this was the most beautiful part of the journey, wasn't it? Going through here.
Yeah.
It was just amazing, the feeling of it. You could hear the waterfalls in the background.
But this is our descent down. Once we'd reached the top, we basically had to walk the whole way down the valley, which is about 1,100 meters, which took us a long time. And the whole way through, you're following along this river.
This particular stretch is a waterfall, which you just walk, it's just going down, and so you're just walking down this waterfall. It's just amazing. This was the longest waterfall of New Zealand, and Dylan got in the water. It was so powerfully strong. I mean, it just felt amazing. And it was freezing cold, wasn't it, Dylan?
Yeah, it was freezing cold. I tried to get in to take a photo by the waterfall, but the water was freezing. And then as you get closer to the waterfall, you see how much powerful see how much power there is in the water, and it's pretty scary. So I didn't get too deep in the water, and I didn't get very close.
And although this shorter part looks very long, it's actually shorter than there's 3 tiers of waterfalls in this particular waterfall, and it was so loud and powerful.
It was an hour and a half detour to make it to the waterfall, which we didn't really want to walk next trip, but it was worth it.
Everybody that had come from it said it was definitely worth it, so we weren't going to miss out. And so day 4, after having spent the night at a hut, this is our last day, and we decided to leave very early. So we set off at 6 o'clock in the morning, which was our first early start, wasn't it, Dylan?
Leaving at 6 in the morning to start walking 18 kilometers. Pretty crazy.
Sleepy faces, but just amazing. And this is the second waterfall, which is quite stunning, called Mackay Falls.
This is where we stopped for lunch. We sat here for a much-earned break and enjoyed the view.
And this is the finale. This is the marker that says you finished the hut. It's called Sunfly Point, and that's as far as the tramp goes. This bit here was a 33-mile marker, which is the last marker because the 34-mile is underwater. So we were patting it with great delight, weren't we, Dylan?
Yeah.
This was actually the small boat that took us from the end of the track to where we got the cruise.
After the walk, we were lucky enough to have a cruise around the Milford Sound. We had this huge boat with about 10 people on it, and it had a bar on board, so we had some nice fish and chips and a beer while we took in the view. Normally it rains more often than not here, and when it rains you'd get waterfalls everywhere, but we had a nice sunny day, which was good to enjoy a beer.
This is back on the cruise. This is all being made by a glacier. And this little waterfall coming up there is the one that services the town of Milford Sounds for all the water, he was saying. the person on the boat that was doing the commentary, he was so cool. He was just like so excited about every single aspect of it, and we were just completely in love with it. I mean, the boat would come right up to the waterfall, Dylan, and we'd just get all. There's that beer. It tasted really good, eh?
3, 2, 1.